The final week of my assistant manager chip, a potential -4, and of course all the key data and stats you need ahead of game week 26 are all going to be covered in today's video. Now before we dive into today's video, of course if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment and subscribe, as we are trying to hit 12,500 subscribers by the end of the season, and it is only possible with your guys' amazing support. As you can see on screen right now, we've got a very minute small red arrow down from 30k to 31k, so it's not too bad considering it wasn't the best game week. Of course, outside of my double game week players not really doing too much, Chris Wood of course being our main benefactor, but everybody else didn't really turn up this game week. And Liverpool, I think from a team perspective, also didn't turn up, did they? Because obviously, you know, the biggest loss this week, as you can see on the right hand side, was to Unai Emery. He's the one that's done the most damage to our rank. Of course, if Liverpool had won that game tonight, we probably would have been in a position with a green arrow. However, I'm still feeling pretty confident. It wasn't too big a blow. We're still in a really decent position heading into, of course, the blanks and the doubles coming up. So let's go and take a look at how my team is lined up for game week 26, and of course run through all the key data you need for this game week. Now before we head into my team selection itself, of course we are going to look at the betting data, my potential transfer targets, and of course the predicted assistant manager points heading into this final game week of the chip being active for my team, and I imagine quite a lot of your guys' teams as well. So first off, let's start off with the betting data from Rob T FPL. Of course, make sure you're going and following Rob over on Twitter. Absolute legend for putting this stuff together every single week for the Premier League and of course for the Champions League as well. A really useful tool, especially if you've got some potential benching dilemmas when looking at projected goals and of course those clean sheet numbers as well. Looking at this week, as you can see, a lot of teams projected to score quite highly. Clean sheets, I would say, are very sparse across the board, to be honest. There aren't too many teams that are kind of outshining it. Probably Arsenal with the best chance of a clean sheet, also the best projected goals, so looking pretty decent for of course any Arsenal players that you potentially invested in, whether that's Trossard or of course the defensive players, Nawari, or if you're looking at potentially going for Arteta as well as the assistant manager. Another decent fixture on the horizon for Bournemouth this week as well. Good projected numbers for them. So obviously Kluivert, Dango, Semenyo, all those picks. And obviously we've got Kirkes and Huijsen within the back line as well. Could be an interesting fixture for those that do have any Spurs players as well, with those facing off against Ipswich. And then of course the games on Sunday are looking extremely good and tasty as well. City, Liverpool, the final game on Sunday. That is going to be an absolute classic, I think, that potentially could have huge ramifications for Champions League and of course the potential winner of the Premier League as well. We've also got the Friday night football again, so do make sure it is a Friday deadline. I will of course be live for that one from around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so make sure if you are new around the channel, make sure when you do subscribe you hit that bell notification so you will be notified when I do go live. Let's move on then. Let's take a look at my potential transfer targets and of course the assistant manager points. Starting off first with the assistant manager points for this week. Like I said, it is going to be the final week of using this chip for me and my side. Now we could keep Arnie Slot. Still a 41% chance of a win. However, as we can see here, the projected points are quite low. So I do feel it is going to be more advantageous to us to, of course, make that switch and look to a different manager. Now, there are two in mind for me right now. It is going to be Mikel Arteta. Of course, as you can see here, the highest percentage chance of a win, the best projected goals, and the best clean sheet numbers for Arsenal as a side as well. Obviously, top of the predicted points, like I said, it is a decent fixture. Of course, probably going to be, I would say, between 10 and 12 points if they were to win, which isn't a bad total to kind of walk away from. However, there is one pick that is really exciting me, and this is all dependent, of course, if Liverpool beat Aston Villa tonight. Now, if Aston Villa beat Liverpool, then this is completely out of the question. However, if they were if Liverpool were to win this game tonight, Glasner does become an option with table bonus. Now for me, I've of course not chased any table bonus so far. We've just gone for slot across both of the double game weeks. That's a pretty easy decision, and it's worked out okay so far. Obviously, I'm filming this before the Villa game. Now I feel to get the best out of this chip, I might be worth having a little bit of a gamble, chasing some potential table bonus with a fixture away at Fulham. Crystal Palace's recent form in 2025 as well has been pretty decent. They're starting to get back on track, and I think You know, Mateta's doing exceptionally well at the moment. Obviously, Munoz as well. They've got lots of players who are looking really, really delicious. So, of course, I think if Liverpool win tonight, we're probably going to be looking more at Glasner. If they don't, then we're probably going to be looking at Arteta. That's kind of how we're going to line up with our assistant manager chip. In terms of our transfers then, I've got two lads on screen, but of course, Kluivert is also a potential option. He would come in if we do go for Glasner, but however, with that being slightly, you know, still stuff to work out, I'm of course going to talk about these two players because I feel a lot of people are probably stuck between the three. For me personally, Kluivert is number one. That's going to be my top pick, but if I can't get to Kluivert, if I went for Arteta, I wouldn't have the budget, so we would have to go for one of Dango or Semenyo, and for me, I think it's a pretty cut and dry decision, to be honest. I am just going to be going for Dango on this one. As you can see, his data over the past 5 game weeks has been pretty stupendous. He's playing out of position. The other forwards as well within the side, of course, do have their injuries, so for me, it just makes sense that we are just going to pick Dango. Easy as that. Pretty self-explanatory. I think that's probably the way we're going to go with that one. The fixtures as well are really, really decent over the next few. And of course, with my strategy being to not use my free hit in 29, also gives me another playing player. So I like that as an option. Like I said, we will, of course, look at my team selections and the different permutations as well, depending on how tonight's result goes. But let's head on into my team selection. Now, before we head into the team selection itself, I do want to just say I have filmed this bit before the Liverpool-Aston Villa game. So if any of the players do get injured in that game, then of course that will potentially change my team selection. And I'll leave that in the comment section below if any sort of injuries, suspensions, anything like that does occur in the game. Let's first off then start off with our goalkeepers and of course defenders and the assistant manager. As you can see, we've already swapped the assistant manager. Like I said, if of course Liverpool don't win that game, we probably are going to go with Mikel Arteta. I still think I am probably leaning probably more 60% towards this way, going with Arteta. Like I said, just backing the favourites, taking the most out of the assistant manager chip and using it to get the best manager with the best predicted points, as we saw from the Rob T FPL data. So I don't mind that too much. In terms of the defence, I feel pretty confident. Obviously, we could maybe swap out Munoz for one of Aina or Hall, but with us having both, you know, Isak and Wood further up the field, I don't feel that's probably going to be the right play. Munoz as well is really, really attacking and at times can sometimes appear in the right wing slots. Huijsen, obviously we brought in last week. It was unfortunate that, you know, Southampton did score and we didn't get that Bournemouth clean sheet. However, overall this season, they are one of the best sides for XG conceded. Their odds as well this week against Wolves at home are pretty decent, as we saw from the Rob T FPL data. So I'm feeling pretty confident and pretty bullish that he should be able to deliver me a clean sheet. And you know what? The Liverpool game, I don't really know how to call it, but Trent's there. He could have a masterclass if he is available for that one. Let's move on then into our midfield. As you can see, this is the second move that we would be making. It would be Dango in for a -4. Now, you might be saying to yourself, Tom, why are you taking Ahmad out and bringing Dango in for a -4 and obviously changing your assistant manager? Well, like I said, my plan is not to free hit in game week 29, and it is, even if we get to that week, still going to require me to take a -4. I think potentially taking it this week, though, when of course we do have the assistant manager to cover off a little bit of that hit, I feel that's probably going to be the better way to play it. Now, I could hold off on these transfers, stick Ahmad in on the bench, and of course play Morgan Rogers. That's definitely still an option that could happen come the deadline. However, I feel like chasing these Bournemouth players is probably going to be the better way and probably kind of solidifies my rank a little bit with so many people, like I said, picking up on a Kluivert, a Dango, or potentially a Semenyo this week, or obviously they did it last week as well. Mohamed Salah is going to be my captain. I think there are some interesting options this week. However, I still am going to stick with Mohamed Salah. Despite the difficult fixture, he's still one of the top players for predicted points on the Fantasy Football Hub model. So I do feel like it's still probably the better way to go with it. And I think most people as well will just stick with Mohamed Salah, and I probably expect his ownership to still be around 150, maybe 160%. Some people might go elsewhere. However, I feel like the sensible move is still to stick with Mohamed Salah. Bryan Mbeumo, he has been dodging points recently, one of the highest players over the past 5 game weeks for expected goal involvements, but hasn't really delivered, and it's been super frustrating. However, he is coming up against Leicester, who are one of the worst sides this season for XG conceded, so hopefully he can get an attacking return and start to get back to the kind of point scoring that we saw earlier in the season from him. Cole Palmer will remain in my side, and I won't be taking him out. Especially, like I said, with us trying to get a team together for game week 29. Maybe on my game week 30, 31 wildcard, he might potentially make way for somebody like an Erling Haaland, with, of course, Manchester City's fixtures starting to look pretty decent and a potential double on the horizon for them. But for right now, we're going to stick with Cole Palmer. After this Villa fixture, they do, of course, face Ipswich and, is it Leicester? I think it's Ipswich and Leicester that they face. It might be Southampton. I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But they've got a really good set of fixtures after this. Two of the best numbers for projected goals on the 11-a-5 model as well for those weeks. Potential captaincy option as well next week, of course, with Mohamed Salah not having the greatest fixture. Palmer's numbers, of course, and Chelsea's numbers on that projected data as well, looking pretty decent. Of course, we have benched Rodgers. It could be a little bit of a mistake given the recent form that Chelsea have got, but I still feel like chasing the Bournemouth players is probably going to be the right move for me and my team personally. Moving on to our front three, it is going to be Isak, Wood and Visser. Very similar situation with Visser as to Mbeumo. Both of these guys have been massively dodging points in recent weeks, and it has been extremely frustrating. Of course, an offside goal for Visser last week against West Ham, not ideal, but I do feel like it is just a matter of time before one of these guys does explode. The way that they're playing, the way that Brentford are playing, and the amount of opportunities that they are getting, it is only a matter of time, like I said before, one of these guys does go off big. Hopefully it's this week, and hopefully it can potentially lead us to a green arrow. Alexander Isak and Chris Wood, of course, scored in the reverse fixture earlier this season as well when that fixture did take place. So hopefully we might potentially see something like that happen again, or maybe it was last season. I can't quite remember which one it was, but Chris Wood is an absolute bagsman. I'm so glad I picked him up a few weeks ago. For a lot of people, is killing off their rank. For me, he's just been a steady Eddie, consistently picking up the points. Of course, we are probably going to keep Isak over the next few weeks. There is a potential shout to get rid of him in game week 29 if, of course, I did want to move for Cunha, with him, of course, having Southampton, a pretty decent fixture. However, with us having a lot of budget already kind of invested into him, I think it's around 0.6 million at this point. I do think I'm probably going to keep him, especially with, obviously, the double coming up for Newcastle in game week 32. Let me quickly show you what the other team would look like if we were, of course, to go for Glasner. This would also be for a -4. It would then allow me to go and get Cliver. Of course, if I want to go for Arteta, I can't afford Cliver. And like I said, I do prefer Cliver out of all the options, purely down to the fact that he is a penalty taker, and I do feel that makes him more of a talisman within the side. It would mean then we'd have Wood, Isak, Palmer, Mbeumo, Salah and Cliver, who all take penalties for the side. Obviously, Morgan Rodgers also might start potentially taking penalties as well, with Watkins missing his last one. Rodgers has taken them previously as well for England's under 21s or potentially under 19s, some age group for England. He has taken penalties before, so definitely he could be, you know, next in line with Watkins missing his last one as well. But like I said, penalty takers for me are one of the biggest exploits and one of the easiest ways to get points in this game. Obviously, Glasner in there would be purely just trying to, obviously, try and chase that table bonus. It's a big, obviously, demand, and it could leave us with egg on our face, especially if we go for the -4. So I might just potentially just go for the safe and go for Arsenal, and obviously look to the 11 the Rob TFPL stuff, back the highest predicted points, or I could take a little bit of a gamble this week, really attack this week, go for it big, and hope that it pays off. Let me know which way you would potentially go in the comments below. Of course, if you've got any questions about your team as well, let me know in the comments section, as I'll try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in game week 26.